Hello, everybody. I'm just admitting you all in here. All right. Thank you all for joining. Hello, I'm Heather with Project Canine. It's super good to see you. Can you guys all hear me? Can you see me? Let's see. Let me get my chat open so I can actually see you all. Right. Let's see. I'm going to give everybody just a few minutes to hop in here. But thank you all for joining. Can everybody chat in the group chat? Everybody can hop on and say hello. Don't mind my split lip here. It's really attractive. Right before I started teaching this, I ended up with a cold sore at the end of last week, and then it burst yesterday. So it's like, it looks like I got in a fight, but I did not. It's just a cold sore. Hi, Kasha. Hi, Lori. Hi, Heather. It's nice to see you guys. Thank you so much for hopping on. I'm going to give everybody just a few more minutes. I'll probably start at about 10:05 with the presentation. Um, but for now, I wanted to give everybody a chance to kind of hop on and kind of work out any technical difficulties if anything was happening that way. Hi, SC. Thanks for joining. Hi, Debbie. Good morning. Um, but yeah, I wanted to give everybody just a few minutes to kind of hop on here and say hi. You guys you're feel free to introduce yourselves. I'm not going to answer any questions at the beginning, but you are more than welcome to kind of talk about your dog and the reason why you're here. And then any questions, I'm going to hold until the very end. The presentation is going to be about 40 minutes. And then I have kind of a question and answer section at the very end, and I will answer questions that can be answered in just a few minutes. Anything that has a longer explanation or is going to go into more detail, or we might have to dig in with that dog a little bit, I would rather set up a free 30-minute consult with just you. And that way we can dig in and I can ask you some more questions and see if we can figure out what's going on. Um, just a disclaimer as well. I am not a veterinarian. I am not a nutritionist. I do not have any medical experience in working with animal nutrition. However, I have been studying it for about 15 years. I'm the owner of Project Canine. You can't see my hoodie, which I don't know why my camera is so in my face, but I mean, it's fine. It just seems like my face is really big. Anyways, I'm the owner and operator of Project Canine. I have been in business since 2012. And in that time, I have studied mainly training, canine behavior, pack psychology, socialization issues, and behavior modification. But I also do basic obedience, puppy training, potty training. And one of the things that I have studied along the way is holistic health for dogs. So let's see, it's now 2025. So I have been officially in business for almost 15 years, but I've been training dogs for about 5 years longer than that. The first couple years when I started working with dogs, I was not charging money. I mean, I was charging for gas and equipment and things like that, like the hard costs to me, but I wasn't charging an hourly rate. It was not my main job. I actually have a bachelor's degree in computer science. Way long ago in a past life, that's what I did was computer programming. And then I got into dogs. And while I have been here, hi, Sarah, thanks for joining. I think I said hi to you already, Debbie, but if I didn't, good morning. um, anyway, so yeah, I along the way with all of the behavior psychology training, I started to realize that there was a connection with a lot of common dog behavior problems that were linked to health problems, which was kind of interesting. And so I kind of went into the entire deep rabbit hole of holistic health for dogs. And I started studying canine massage, essential oils, nutrition, and a lot of Chinese medicine and kind of acupuncture, chiropractic practices, things like that. That there is an overlap with Western medicine, but there is a gap in regular veterinary practices. And there's two different organizations for veterinary care. One of them is called AVMA, which is the American Veterinary Medical Association. And then there's the American Holistic Veterinary Medicine Association. And those two are kind of on opposite sides of the spectrum. There is a little bit of overlap, but we don't have a lot of holistic practices or clinics or even schools in the United States. A lot of that is if you want to start getting into holistic medicine in humans and dogs, or I guess I should say all pets, you kind of have to go elsewhere. You have to go in a different country to start learning more of that. So I am lucky enough to have a holistic veterinarian about an hour away from me. Her name is Dr. Kathy Backus. She does have a clinic in Kanab. She is a real vet, and she used to be located in Bountiful, which for those of you that have followed me for quite some time, or you know me through another trainer, or you follow me on social media, sorry, I don't know why I'm getting notifications on my computer, but I got distracted. Anyway, yeah, I have been practicing doing dog training and behavior for quite some time. And I started in Eagle Mountain, Utah. I then moved to Highland, and then I moved down here to St. George, which is where I am now. When I was up north, Dr. Kathy Backus was actually in Bountiful. So I sent a lot of my clients up to her. And now that I'm down here, she's an hour away. It's in this area, we do have quite a few veterinary practices, but they're very, very limited. I live in a rural area, whereas when I was up in the Salt Lake and Utah counties, I was more in the city. There was a much higher population. We had a lot of more emergency clinics, specialty vets. We don't have that down here. So that's the reason why I put this seminar together, because our vets down here, and I think it's everywhere, are becoming more and more expensive, and they are seeing more and more people with pets with common issues, and they're just prescribing anti-anxiety meds. They're prescribing Apoquil. They're prescribing Rimadyl for everything. And I'm not saying that those things aren't good in certain situations, but it shouldn't be a go-to prescription. It shouldn't be a go-to answer for every time your dog is itchy or has skin problems or things like that. I like to do a deep dive into those issues, find out where it's coming from. Although it might be a long investigation to find that, it's so worth it because it saves you so much money in the long run, and it helps your dog health with a longer life. So, okay. I'm going to go ahead and jump in here. So I'm going to share my screen. Once I figure out how to do that here, I usually do this from my phone, and I'm doing it from my computer today. So let's see. Share screen. Okay. Yep, that's what I want. There we go. Okay. So I can't see the chat anymore. I don't know why it does this to me. There we go. Okay. So I brought the chat up so I can still see if you guys have questions. Oops. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to kind of keep up my presentation. I'm not going to worry about making it super pretty. This is kind of a first time thing for me using a couple of these different softwares, but it'll be fine. You'll still get the information and it'll still look really nice. So we're going to hop in here to what we're talking about today. So first couple things, obviously we're going to talk about the common ailments of when something in your dog's food can be contributing to some common ailments. Then we're going to kind of talk about what's in dog food and break down some of those ingredients. I'm not going to get into the huge nitty gritty because we only have an hour and I could talk about this all day. And then I'm going to start talking about the different types of raw foods and homemade foods and things like that, and talk about the balances. And again, I'm not going to get into super nitty gritty percentages or weights or anything like that. I'm just going to go into the different types of food and the pros and cons of both. And then here, once we get into the troubleshooting and solutions, we're going to start opening this up for questions at this time. And then we'll do some follow-up questions at the end. So I have the chat open so I can see you guys. So if you guys wanted to kind of start describing your dog's issues, you can start doing that now. I will get to them, I promise. It'll just be near the end of the presentation. That way we can get through everything. So if you want to talk about your dog's age, its breed, the issues you're experiencing, and when it all started and what you've tried, you can start putting that into the chat while we're talking. So here we go. So the first thing that I'm always going to bring up are the common issues in dogs that we see all the time for when there's a nutrition breakdown. And this can be in their treats, this can be in their food, this can also be in their environment, but that's a different presentation. I'm going to focus on food today, but there are other environmental factors that can be affecting your dog with common issues that I'm going to be describing. But this presentation, we're going to be talking about nutrition. So some of the common ailments, obviously we have this guy right here that's having little bowel movement, diarrhea, soft stools, constipation, runny poops, mucousy poops, all of that can be coming from their food. Obviously, I'm going to kind of go around. I'm going to come back to this little guy up top. But this lab down here in the middle left has a little hot spot. Hot spots can be caused by their food as well. Same thing with here. There's some skin issues. Obviously, you can see right here on this little dog in the bottom left that it's obviously having some hair loss, some skin irritation. The skin is red and there's obvious rash going on. The next one over, there's obvious hair loss here, and he has some scabbing, things like that from scratching so much. This little poor guy is scratching like crazy. This guy's got eye goop. Sometimes you'll see eye swelling, eye goop, nose goop, things like that just have general allergies, like when we have congestion. Obviously, obesity, which also comes with underweight dogs too. So there's obesity and overweight dogs, as well as the opposite side of the spectrum where you have dogs that are just having a really hard time gaining weight. Constant ear infections, dirty ears. This little guy, I don't know if you can see it right on his eye. He's also got some tear staining happening. Excessive amounts of shedding, dental health, oral health, where they have lots of plaque, poor teeth, poor gum health, mouth infections, bad breath, all kinds of things just with oral health. That's a whole section in itself. And then this little guy, I put him up here because I wanted to talk about behavior issues in dogs that is also a common ailment. Now, a lot of dog foods have an excessive amounts of carbs in the food itself. And so carbs break down to sugar, which create oral problems in dogs, but it also creates neurological imbalances. And this can create things like hyperactivity, hyperarousal, anxiety, separation anxiety, generalized anxiety, just general jittery type behavior, as well as reactivity and aggression. So I wanted to put that up in here in the common ailments as well. So if you're kind of checking off the things that your dog is experiencing and they're experiencing some of these things, most likely it's coming from their food. But like I said earlier, it can be environmental as well. So these are some of the common things that I see and a lot of the common complaints that I have when people come into me for training. And then I'm like, okay, the first question I ask is, what are they eating? And sometimes I'm not going to name brands or anything in this presentation. That's more for when we get into private consults, because I don't want to sit here and just bash different companies or promote different companies. That's not what I'm about for this presentation. More so, I want to talk about I'll ask them what food their dog is eating. And the next thing I know, they're telling me a brand that I know has a lot of sugar, carbs, and just simple low quality ingredients. So kind of this leads us to the next thing is, what is in the dog food? Why is it causing these issues? What brand is the best? Okay, so I'm not going to get into brands, but I am going to start talking about ingredients in your dog's food. As we all know, dogs are not humans. They are totally different species. And we are what we put into our bodies. Same with people, right? So if we're eating junk food all the day, all the time, we're drinking soda, we're not drinking enough water, we are having electrolyte problems because we have way too much sodium, way too much sugar, or not enough. And we're eating food that's low in quality nutrients, but it's just making us feel full. Like, think like fast food or deep fried foods, sugar, things like that, chips. Yeah, they help us with that snacking craving, but it's really not doing us any favors in the long run. It's the same thing for dogs as well. So I'm just going to kind of go through a couple of these bullet points really quickly. So byproducts is a word on your ingredient list that you want to stay far, far away from. Secondly, when it doesn't tell you the protein, like it doesn't tell you the source of protein, it says meat byproducts or animal protein. They don't want to tell you what type of animal it has come from, which obviously is not great because now you don't know, like if you're especially if your dog has allergies or skin problems or itchiness or inflammation or anything like that. Whoops. Did I just lose my speaker? Oh, okay. It says that I'm good. Can you guys still hear me? Did I lose my microphone? Okay, great, great, great. I was just about to talk in the chat. Okay, thank you. I had a notification that my microphone was disconnected, so I wanted to make sure it still worked. Okay. All right. So when it starts talking about animal protein, meat protein, especially if you're trying to diagnose or figure out what your dog is allergic to, which is typically going to be a specific protein or a grain, then you don't have any idea of what it is. The other issue when it says meat or animal protein or byproduct is that and this is really, really morbid and gross, so I apologize for this, but it is the truth that it is legal to put euthanized animals from veterinary clinics and things like that into your dog's food. And when it says meat and animal, it could be that. The other thing that they don't like to put on there is if it's horses. So we want to be really careful and make sure that your dog food actually says what protein it is that is in the food. Low quality fillers. So a filler is something that will keep your dog full, but adds no nutritional value, such as rice, wheat, starchy foods, potatoes, lower quality grain. We do want high quality legumes, but we want to stay away from grains. Like whole grains are great, but like bleached or enriched white grain or white wheat is not amazing. Corn, oh my gosh, corn. Corn causes so much inflammation, you guys. If you have a food that has corn as one of the ingredients, especially if it's one of the ingredients before the word salt, then that is going to be causing an insane amount of inflammation in your dogs, even in healthy dogs. You're going to see lack of muscle mass. You're going to see them kind of blow up at certain times, especially if you have intact dogs. When their hormones change, corn is going to spike up and just cause massive inflammation. Gluten is the same thing. It does it with a lot of people as well. Soy is not digestible to dogs. It is not a good source of a filler or a protein. So just stay far away from that. And then we start getting into our chemicals like propylene glycol. So I don't know if you can see this teeny little picture that I have on here. I tried to make it as big as I could without it being like overwhelming. But there is a tiny little bowl right here that has propylene glycol in it. This is not good. They put this in human foods too. They do use it as a preservative, but it's an undigestible chemical that causes inflammation and a lot of disruption between the different organs. So it's not a good thing. There's some examples on here as well. Obviously, dyes. If your food is all kinds of different colors, like it's green and red and yellow, and they just like make it look like confetti or like kids cereal, which by the way, try not to feed your kids dyes either. But anyway, those type of things are just going to be not great. So in this little picture, I have a kind of a diagram of just what the different types of ingredients look like. So like yellow ground corn is at the top, and then the dye coloring. Typically in a normal bag of dog food, and I'm gonna, again, I don't want to name any brands, but a normal bag of dog food you would see at your grocery store. These are the ingredients that are going to be in your dog's food. So the top 3 plates of yellow ground corn, because it typically is the first, second, or third ingredient on the list, and the ingredients are organized by water weight. So the heaviest ingredients with the most water weight are going to be the first ingredients. Once that's cooked off, it changes the ingredient list. So there's a little bit of tricksy stuff that happens there. And then chicken byproducts. Byproduct means all of the parts of the animal that are not fit for human consumption. Bones, the rib cage, feathers, feet, beaks, eyeballs, those type of things. So byproduct is just, it is somewhat digestible to your dog, but they're not getting the chicken part of the meat that you think of when you say chicken. Corn gluten meal, whole wheat flour. Whole wheat flour is fine in small amounts because it can be used as a filler, but it shouldn't be one of the main ingredients. It shouldn't be listed before salt, for example, or at least it should be lower in the list before salt. Rice flour, again, like that's a ton of flour in this particular bag of dog food that I was looking at. Potato starch, meat and bone meal, propylene glycol, vitamin premix. So the other thing that they do with vitamins, so when you're looking at the ingredient list and they're all over the bag, they're advertising how they add all these vitamins and minerals and it's a balanced, complete diet. That may be true before they cook it, but once they cook it at 3,000 degrees, they are cooking out all of the nutrients that are in your dog's food. So once it's done, it's basically charred little balls, like hard balls, that have basically been made mostly of wheat and corn and flour and things like that. So afterwards, they actually spray on an artificial flavor, which they have to list on the bag as added flavor or something with the ingredient that says like chicken byproduct for chicken flavor in parentheses. So they kind of get tricky on that, where on the bag, they can advertise that it's chicken, but it's not actually chicken. It's just chicken flavor. And then afterwards, they add in the vitamins again in a spray form on top of the food. So all kinds of things that are just not awesome. But this is the type of stuff that I wanted to educate everybody on. Okay. Wow, my my little bullet points got out of order, but that's okay. So other things that can be causing all of this inflammation, allergies, all these problems. Table food. When you give your dog food that should be made for a human, there's all the seasonings, the sauces, the added sodium, the sugars, the carbs. Dogs cannot digest any of that. So what it does is it causes a slowdown in metabolism. They can't do anything with it, so it just turns to fat in their body, which creates inflammation, obesity, probably poor dental health as well, because a lot of that just sticks to the top of their teeth because they don't have the gland in their mouth to break down those carbs. Sugar, preservatives, BHA, BHT, those type of things. I did put in here some things from environmental factors as well, things that a lot of people don't think about. So when I say environmental, I'm not just talking about outside and in your backyard and at the park and trees and grass and things like that. I'm also talking about things like flame retardants in your carpet and in your couch and new clothes. Fabric softeners that you use to wash the clothes can be an irritant and actually cause skin issues as well. Mites. Mites are everywhere. We have them in everything. We have them on us right now. We have them in our clothes. We have them in the carpet on our couches. We have them in the grasses outside. When you take your dog on a walk, they're exposed to mites. It is really hard when you have a dog that has an allergic reaction and is having a big problem to mites. There are things that we can do to help them through that, where they don't have such a huge like anti or I can't speak, a huge histamine response to those mites or grass or fabric softener or whatever it is. We can slowly kind of reverse the damage that's happened and build up a tolerance to them. But in the beginning, we really need to work on calming that body down, calming that immune system down. And then once we do, we can address getting them back up to where they can be in a normal environment and not suffer. Okay. So chronic inflammation. Chronic inflammation can be obesity. It can be swelling. It can be hair loss. It could be hot spots. It can be redness, skin problems, itchiness, anything that causes an insane amount of discomfort to the dog where you can visibly see it is typically inflammation. Anything where your dog is red, like if they have an ear infection and their ear is red, there's inflammation in there as well. So anything that we can do to reduce the amount of inflammation in your dog's body will help their comfort and their health, and then help us get on top of what it is that they are having an allergic reaction to. So we can kind of pinpoint it a little bit easier than a vet can when you know how to troubleshoot your dog's health and diet and environment, things like that. Okay, so I'm gonna read a quote off from Dr. Wendy Volhard. This is the last thing on this slide, where she said in one of her books, and if you guys are interested in reading and you want to read more, one of the books that I used as my Bible for many, many years when it came to holistic health with dogs is called The Holistic Guide to a Healthy Dog, from written by Wendy Volhard. So I'm going to write that in the chat so that you guys can just copy it if you wanted to, but you can find it on Amazon. Obviously you can find it in like a library or something like that, maybe. Or you can, I don't know if places like Barnes and Noble would have it, because it's such a specific, like you're looking into holistic dog nutrition and they don't have everything there. I've looked at like their training books and stuff, and it's just a really small selection. So I find a lot of my books on Amazon. So you can always just kind of copy and paste that in there, and you can learn a lot from her. She's one of the leading nutritionists in the United States, and she has over 50 years experience. Hey, Heather, thank you for putting in about your dog. I'll read through that as soon as I am able to. But that'll help me once we get to questions. All right. So kind of moving on. So here are some things about the dog food industry that I think everybody should know moving forward. There is no regulation, or very little regulation, when it comes to dog food companies. So they don't have a hard line that they have to follow. We do have more regulation in our human food industry, but dog food is very, very far behind in this country. It is way more regulated in places like Europe and things like that. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're looking at the dog food bags and you're like, wow, this one looks good. It has a picture of some nice cuts of meat on the front, or some healthy vegetables, and that dog looks really healthy. It's just a picture of a dog. It's not a picture of a dog that has eaten that food. It's also just a picture of meat and a picture of vegetables. It's not necessarily a picture of the ingredients that are in the dog food itself. And if it is, then it could be less than 1%, which use salt as a marker on your ingredient list. So when you're looking at your dog's food, kind of focus on the ingredients. There is more to it than just the ingredients, but that's what I'm going to focus on today, just for lack of time. So anything after the word salt is less than 1% of that ingredient in there. So a lot of that is going to be preservatives, vitamins, and minerals. But when you're looking at it and it looks like herbs, like it says things like parsley or carrots or a vegetable like that, it's less than 1% of the main ingredients. So again, they get tricksy with that. The other thing is that marketing sells. Looking like it's healthy, the words healthy, balanced, natural, organic, those type of words are just buzzwords and they don't actually have to meet any criteria to be put on the bag. So they're just on there to help sell the product. They're not on there because that's actually what it is. They don't use actual definitions of those words in their ingredient list, which you can see if you read through the ingredient list. And now that you guys will be armed with a little bit more knowledge, you'll kind of see that tracks. Okay. I'm going to kind of go over here in the hard truth section. So like I said earlier, the nutrients are literally processed out of the kibble before it even gets put into the dog's bowl. So during the processing, they have to cook the kibble at about 3,000 degrees or more, depending on whatever manufacturing plant that they're at. And that one manufacturing plant is processing hundreds of brands of dog food. So if you have a recall on one dog food, which I'm sure you guys have seen this before, where you're like, oh, I don't want to go with that food company because there was a recall for salmonella. Okay, so when there is a recall for salmonella, it's not in that brand. It's typically at the manufacturing plant. So there might be another 100 dog foods that were affected, but they just didn't test those quick enough, and they didn't report a dog getting sick and link it back to the dog food until much later. It could be months and months and months, and then you finally link it back, and then months later you see a recall for salmonella again, but it's a totally different brand. But if you start doing research, you narrow it down to that manufacturing plant. And things happen, things get contaminated. It's not, I mean, it's just the way it is. Even with human food, we have recalls on human food. It doesn't necessarily mean that that brand is bad, but that manufacturing plant needs to step up some of their protocols. And because of lack of regulation, it's difficult. So you kind of are starting to see the problem with that. The other thing is that the veterinary industry and the nutrition industry are very closely linked. So it's all a monetary business. So when you are thinking about any kind of business, the goal for a business is to make money. So of course they want a high quality product, but they want to create that high quality product at the lowest cost possible. Over time, especially when companies get bought out, some of my very favorite dog food companies have been bought out by other companies, and then those ingredients just start to slowly decline, and I can't recommend that food anymore. And that's what happens in business. And so I have to stay super up to date on what's going on behind the scenes when I'm recommending dog foods, because I want to do my research. I want to recommend companies that I stand behind. And then if they get bought out, I want to research those new formulas and what did they change? What are their plans to change? And is the cost increasing, decreasing, especially with inflation? If the cost stays the same during inflation, that's a red flag to me, because they're probably taking some shortcuts on ingredients to keep the costs low, which means you go to pick out your dog food and there's going to be a bag that's $50 and there's going to be a bag that's $90. You're like, ooh, we're having hard times. I'm going to go with the $50 bag of dog food. Well, you just went with the $50 bag of ingredients as well, versus the company that has increased their prices that was previously the same cost as this other comparative dog food. And now that company continued to produce that high quality product with those high quality ingredients. This other company started adding in byproducts and adding in more salt and more carbs and more sugars and more fillers. So we kind of have to pay attention to those ingredients for that reason as well. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to kind of jump into the middle section, where it says stay away. I've talked about a lot of this already, so I'm just going to kind of skip over some of it. This is just a general list of some ingredients to try and stay away from. So I've talked about a lot of these. I'll add in a couple more. We do want to stay away from oats and barley and rice. All of those are they're not necessarily whole grains. They're fillers. They're meant to fill up the dog, but they add no nutritional value, and they can cause inflammation. So when we're talking about things like potatoes and sweet potatoes as well, those can also cause inflammation in some dogs. especially if your dog is already having skin problems. You want to stay away from starchy foods. Soy protein, animal fat, white flour dyes, all those things, like I talked about earlier. And then we start getting into all of these bigger words, bigger chemicals, bigger compounds like propyl gallate. That's a really big one that you want to stay away from, that causes massive amounts of inflammation, and it actually causes metabolism and digestive problems down the road, as well as increasing cancers. I'm not going to say statistics either because I don't have all the studies right in front of me, and I'm only doing this for an hour. So if you're interested in those, I'm happy to get those for you. Just send me an email or text me. And then as far as all of these down here, the ethoxyquin, MSG, carrageenan, xylitol, sodium, like all of these type of things are going to be kind of hidden in those ingredient lists that will be after the word of salt, but you want to just stay away from them. And so you can take a screenshot if you want of this slide, or like I said, I'm happy to. I have some handouts as well for people that want to set up consults. I'm happy to give you a handout. I don't have a complete list of all the ingredients to stay away from because that list is ever changing, but these are just some examples. If you don't know what it is in dog food, research it. There is a website that I like to go to called dogfoodadvisor.com, and it will actually help you break down these ingredients and say which ones are fine and which ones are not fine. I haven't used it in a couple years, honestly, but it is one of those that I would easily go back to. They do keep up to date on all of those controversial ingredients. Last thing I want to talk about is breed-specific foods and prescription dog foods. So breed-specific foods, there are a couple brands out there that will advertise that they're selling for a certain type of dog or a specific breed, and veterinarians will also do prescription diets. And I think everybody knows what I'm talking about when I'm talking about this particular dog food company. So in the next slide, I don't think I actually had that in there. Yes, I did. Okay. So this is kind of jumping into the monopoly in the pet food industry. So you might recognize this name, Robert Wheeler Hills, or Robert Wheeler. His middle name is Hills or something like that. Anyways, he owns Hills Science Diet. He is also a member of the AMVA, which means, or AVMA, sorry, with my letters and acronyms. Which means he has a lot of say and a lot of power over the nutrition courses that veterinarians learn. When veterinarians sell specific brands of dog food, they are getting a commission for selling those dog foods. So why wouldn't they want to push it? Why wouldn't they want to sell it? And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with getting a little kickback from selling products. They do the same thing with pharmaceuticals, just like hospitals do. That's why hospitals and doctors prescribe certain brands of meds, because the pharmaceutical company kind of owns them. It's very similar with veterinary and nutrition companies. I don't want to say nutrition companies, dog food companies. So there are good foods out there. There are good companies, and I do a lot of research to figure out what those companies are, and I like to pass along the knowledge that I have so that you guys can make your own informed decisions as well. Okay, so kind of some myths about dry food. We're going to jump into raw in just a second here, and I'm kind of going to speed through that so that we can get to the questions. The crunchy food helps prevent plaque. No, it does not. What helps prevent plaque is not putting carbs and sugar into your dog's body in the first place. A bag had cuts of meat and veggies on it, so it's healthy. We talked about that. It's a marketing ploy. I should feed the same thing to my dog every single day to prevent indigestion, diarrhea, vomiting, just all of those problems. No, if your dog struggles to switch its food, then your dog has a weak gut. And I'm not going to get into that hugely right now either, but I would always recommend putting your dog on a probiotic and a digestive enzyme, especially if it's on a kibble. This will also prevent skin issues, ear infections, itchy problems, and a whole bunch of other things simply by having your dog on a probiotic. I do have recommendations for products. If you guys are interested, we can absolutely set up a consult and talk more about specific products, but I'm not going to do that in this seminar. Um, Okay, perfect. Yeah, Kasha, absolutely. Just send me a text. I think I texted your husband, so go ahead and send me a text, and I will we'll set up a consult, and we can talk more about exactly what's going on with your dog. I'm happy to give not prescriptions. I'm sorry, recommendations. I'm happy to give recommendations. I just want to kind of dig in a little bit more and find out what's actually going on before I start recommending products and brands. Okay, my dog didn't like the new healthy food, so I switched back to the old food. Well, if your dog liked McDonald's and it switched to a kale salad, of course it's not going to like the kale salad. Who likes kale salad? I try and be pretty healthy and I hate kale. I have to put it in smoothies because I know it's so good for me, but I don't enjoy the taste of kale. I don't know anybody who does, but we know the benefits of it. And so we try and add that in as much as we can and kind of hide those flavors. Of course, your dog is not going to like a new healthy food if it's been used to eating McDonald's every single day. I'm saving money by not buying expensive food. Well, you might be saving money on food, but you are absolutely not saving money on your veterinary bills. How much money do you spend in veterinary bills when your dog is struggling with these common ailments that we discussed earlier? Quite a bit. I know how much Apoquel costs. I know how much a vet exam is. And I also know that by investing more in the wellness section, you're going to spend way less on vet bills long term. All right. So there are other types of foods besides dry kibble and wet food, like canned food. Here's some pictures here of just some examples. I just picked some off of, I used Canva to create my presentation. I just basically used some stock images. But basically this one is representing a raw diet. They have some cuts of meat and bone in here, as well as some green tripe, which is fantastic, and some that looks like a quail egg or something. And then in the middle, they are mixing kibble with vegetables and some chicken, which that's fantastic too. You can always mix a raw diet with a kibble diet, and there are many ways to do that. And then this one on the very end looks like a home cooked meal. I don't love that there's rice in it, but a lot of times home cooked meals do have rice in it because they do need a little bit of a filler. There are different ways to do this. There's 1,000, a million recipes out there, like a lot. And that's actually something in Wendy's book as well, that she offers recipes. And I have quite a few nutrition books that offer different recipes as well. So I'm going to quickly speed through this. We're going to go over on our time a little bit. I am absolutely fine with that. So if you guys are too, that's totally fine. Yeah, what is raw? Dogs are omnivores because they can eat both vegetables and meat. And they do need a little bit of both. The reason for adding vegetables is because if your dog was on what's called a raw prey model, or like a prey model raw diet, this is called a species appropriate diet because you are feeding them from what they would be eating out in the wild. So what that would look like is mostly meat, organ, muscles, and bones. But if they're eating a raw like prey, let's say they eat a rabbit, they're going to eat basically the whole rabbit, which also includes the stomach contents. And the rabbit is not eating meat. The rabbit is eating vegetables. So those vegetables are such a small, tiny portion of your dog's diet that when they get too much, it offsets the balance. Now I know some of you probably have cats, so I put in here that cats are obligate carnivores. Cats cannot digest vegetables. They can't digest any kind of herbs or anything like that. They have to have meat to survive. And they get what this very, very special, I think it's a hormone. It's either a hormone or it's a mineral, and it's called taurine, which you've probably heard of it before. They get that from meat. If they don't, get that in meat, you are feeding a vegetarian diet or you're feeding a lower quality food, they're going to have a taurine deficiency, and that causes a plethora of health problems. So keep a lookout on that. Okay, dogs get most of their nutrients from meat, organs, and bones. A raw diet means no cooked ingredients. Now, there are homemade cooked recipes out there that need to be balanced properly with meat, like your main meat source, organs, muscles, and bones. If your homemade diet does not include organs, muscles, or bones or bone meal, it is incomplete and they are not getting what they need. And they're most likely getting rice or oatmeal or something like that as a filler. And then they're also maybe getting in some herbs or vegetables. That is not a complete diet. And so homemade diets can be amazing when they're done properly. But a lot of the homemade diets that I've seen are just, they're simply missing a lot of really key key parts that give the dog the full health. Okay, dogs' muscles will be stronger when they eat raw. Their body's leaner because they use strength to rip and tear meat off bones. So if you guys ever go to like Yellowstone or the zoo or anything like that, maybe not so much the zoo because that's not as natural, but if you see a wild animal like a wolf or something out in the wild, they are lean. You can see ribs. Sometimes you can see hips even. They are not fat. And they have amazing teeth and they look muscular. That is what a dog should look like. In domesticated household, dogs are not getting the exercise requirements, nor are they getting the nutrition requirements, and they're lazing around all day, not burning the calories, not working for their food, and not having to rip and tear their prey because they're eating their food out of a bowl, typically. So on a raw diet, your dog will typically be calmer. It'll have, and I'm talking about a balanced raw diet, even a homemade diet. You can do this with kibble too. You don't have to do raw, but it's just kind of making sure that they're getting all those nutritional requirements, and they will just simply look healthier. Their muscle mass will look healthier. Their bodies will look healthier. I'm going to skip around a little bit here. Dogs and wolves hunt for their food in the wild. We kind of talked about that a little bit already. And we also talked about different feeding options like dehydrated, freeze-dried, commercial raw, and homemade raw, as well as home-cooked, kibble, wet food, and then a mix of multiples of those. And then I talked a little bit about this, where not all diets are the same in ratios. To create a homemade diet, you must learn the ratios and weights of what your dog needs based on their ideal weight. I'm not going to get hugely into that right now because that can easily take up several hours per person for us to figure out exactly how much your dog should be eating. But on the back of the bag, if you're feeding kibble, there is a section that says kcals per pound or kcals per weight or something like that, or kcals per bag or kcals per cup, something like that. And it'll tell you how many calories are in whatever measurement they're using. That's going to be really helpful in figuring out how much you need to be feeding your dog, because the amounts on the back of the bag are not very accurate. Okay, so here are some myths. Some people like to feed, or they want to feed raw, but they're like, "Ooh, if my dog gets the taste of blood, it'll always have the taste of blood." Not 100% true, and it depends on the context. So that's more of a training question, so I'm not going to get into that right now. But some of the myths about raw variety makes them sick. I talked about that before. All that means is your dog has a weak gut, which is typical on dogs they're on a kibble-based diet. Dogs should not feed raw bones. Yes, they should eat bones. They should not eat cooked bones. There's a huge difference. The other thing is there is some controversy on like weight-bearing bones versus non-weight-bearing bones, and which ones are healthier, fish bones, bird bones, things like that. There's a huge controversy on that that I'm not going to get into right now. Different breeds and life stages have different nutritional needs. Sometimes it depends. If we're talking about a Great Dane puppy, Great Dane puppy, they are going to need much more fat and protein than an adult Great Dane, just like babies do. But breeds, and I just use breed as an example here too, but that's an exception for some giant breeds. I'm talking about different comparative breeds like pointers and labs and Dobermans. Okay, they're not that different. Like they're all going to need meat, organ, bone, muscle. Those are going to be the main ingredients no matter what breed, no matter what size, no matter what age. Puppies can absolutely be on a raw diet as well. I have done it many, many, many times, very successfully with clients' dogs as well as my own. My dog doesn't like high quality food or raw. Well, it may not in the beginning, again, when it's used to McDonald's. Dogs can get worms and parasites from eating raw. Unlikely. It's very unlikely. They're going to get worms more from eating decomposing things or poop. Same with parasites. I fed raw for 12 years. I'm not feeding it right now just because of cost constraints, but I fed it for 12 years and I never had a problem. And I got my meat from all kinds of different sources. So I've never seen that. I've never seen them get it from raw. I've seen them get it from other places, and absolutely it is a thing, but I have not seen it happen simply because of feeding raw. My dog can get salmonella from eating raw. So they're more likely to get salmonella from a processing plant that had a salmonella contamination than they are from eating raw, because salmonella is a naturally occurring bacteria in any dog's stomach. It just simply exists in their gut. Same thing with E. coli. That doesn't mean that they can't get sick from it. So you can absolutely get E. coli and salmonella from handling raw, but your dog is already exposed to it. So as long as it's not in an excessive amount, like they're not eating poop with E. coli in it, like dogs eat poop all the time and don't get E. coli. And I'm talking about like all kinds of animal poop, like chicken poop and cow patties. And you go hiking and they eat a bunch of deer poop and stuff. Like dogs are the healthier their gut is, the more they can handle a lot of those different things. The weaker their gut is, the more sensitive their belly is going to be. All right. We're almost done here. Okay, so how to diagnose, and I don't really even should use that word, how to figure out how to find the source of your dog's discomfort. First thing is to look in the ingredients of your dog's food and switch if you need to. I can help with that. I can give recommendations. I can even help you pinpoint which ones might be the problem causing the issues that you're experiencing. Don't feed any treats, human food, or snacks during the transition. So for the first few months when you're trying to diagnose what's actually causing all these issues, don't feed them anything else, because that can contribute to potentially changing. Like, yes, they might get better, but they could also get worse, and now you don't know where it's coming from. Add in a probiotic digestive enzyme. Sometimes this alone will take care of it. And wait 3 months before changing anything. Do just like if you add in a probiotic and a digestive enzyme, do that for 3 months, see how it's going. If it's getting better, great. If by the end of month 2, 3, you're not seeing an improvement, let's start looking at the ingredients. And these are not in any particular order. You can do this in any order. Yeah. So kind of the last thing is this, and it can take a little bit to diagnose everything, but it's so much better than just prescribing a med and having that dog have to be on a med the rest of its life, Benadryl or Apoquel or whatever it is, to cover up the symptoms so that your dog can actually live comfortably. Like, let's find out what it is that's causing them the discomfort. Okay, so it's now time, guys. It's now time for our questions. I know we are right at 10:55, but I planned on about 20 minutes of questions, so I'll go until about 10:15. So I'll address the ones that already came in. So it looks like you have a Pyrenees Golden Doodle. This is from Heather Bruley. Softer stools. I'll change food and it'll be good for a while, and then it'll turn soft. Currently, he's good with his stools. Let me switch my screen back here. Let's see. Stop sharing. How do I stop sharing? There we go. Okay. I'll change food. It'll be good for a while, but then it turns soft. Currently, he's doing good with his stools. Different issues. He'll sometimes get scabs. Oh, where did it go? There we go. I should just make this a little bit bigger. There. Sometimes he'll get scabs along his back that will pop up random. The vet gave me a shampoo to use that helps, but could be from the shampoo. Last time it happened, he got a bath at Petco. Okay, so a couple things seem to be going on here, but it's definitely an immune system response. So he could be overloaded on histamine, which is why he's getting those little scabs. Those are typically a result of having hives, and then the scab is the hive healing. So that it could be the shampoo that you used. It could be whatever shampoo they used when you took them into the groomers at Petco. There is a shampoo that the vets like to prescribe a lot called Chlorohex. It's blue and it's a concentrate. Typically, you mix it with water and you can bathe your dog in it. It is like an antifungal, antibacterial shampoo. It is a chemical, but it does seem to help. I'm not super huge into wanting dogs to be on a chemical the rest of their life, but sometimes it's necessary. Sometimes you have to combine that Western veterinary medicine with the holistic side of things, and that's the beauty of the holistic side is you can combine them. So, and then there's the soft stools. So it sounds like it's kind of two separate issues, like you're having skin problems and he has got soft stools. So I would definitely add in the probiotic and the digestive enzyme. And Heather, if you want, again, if you want a recommendation on products that I recommend or that I use, I am happy to give those to you. I just don't want to recommend it in this seminar. So maybe just shoot me over a text or an email and we'll get that going, and I can shoot you over a couple recommendations. So that would be the recommendation for that. And then as far as the hives and everything, the probiotic might actually clear that up too, because if it's a yeast or something like that, the probiotic can handle yeast problems and minor bacteria. If it's viral, that's something different. But the probiotic might be able to clear up both of those things. So that's what I would do. And then check the ingredients. Check the ingredients of the food that you're currently feeding and make sure there's, specifically no corn, meat byproducts, barley, oats, wheat, things like that, what we talked about in the seminar that can contribute to inflammation. So that's what I would recommend for your chief here. I had a dog named Chief too, by the way. We lost him a couple years ago, and that was, he was my hard dog. That was really hard. But I hope that answers your question. Okay. Hi, Kasha. Okay, yours is next. Let's see. So you have 2 blue nose pits. We did allergy testing, and our male does have allergies. Oh, Sarah's recommendation. Fantastic. Yeah. I'm assuming you mean Sarah Baker. I know I have a couple of her clients in our in my workshop. We worked really hard on their diet, but we noticed he still does have the redness on his inner thigh belly area. Okay. Hey, get off my screen. Come on. He also has ear infections constantly. Okay. My female also broke out with hives from hypoallergenic shampoo and scars. Oh no. All over because of it. We immediately stopped and thought it was odd. Okay. So this is a little bit more extreme than Heather's situation with her dog from what it seems like just in the description that I'm getting really quick. The redness signifies inflammation. So there's definite inflammation on the thigh, belly. And I know exactly what area you're talking about because that's a common area for issues. There's also the ear infections, and you said your female broke out with hives. And now they have scars from the hypoallergenic shampoo. Okay. So this sounds like, with your female, it sounds like a combination of environmental and food, but she's already having that heightened over histamine production. So every little thing, it's like you could flick her with a little tiny contaminant and she's like, oh my gosh, okay, I'm breaking out in hives. I don't know what to do. My body's in attack mode, and it just starts attacking itself, and you get that like autoimmune response. So she seems more extreme. Your male, you worked really hard on their diet, but notice he still has the redness on his inner thigh belly area and gets ear infections. Ear infections and the thigh belly area. Okay, so you're telling me there's redness on the thigh and the belly. Is it also discolored? Like, does the fur change to brown? And does the fur also change to brown in between the paw pads? Because that's typically yeast. And with the combined ear infections, it sounds like a yeast overproduction. So there's a couple things that we can do with that. Probiotic, again, probiotics can help so much if he's not already on one. If he is, dogs also develop a tolerance to digestive enzymes and probiotics when they're on it for longer than about 30 days to 2 months. So if you're already on a probiotic, I would recommend switching it up every couple months to a different one and then going back to the old one again, or just keep changing it and see which one that they do best on, but then continuing to switch it up after every few months because they do develop that intolerance. And again, happy to give recommendations. So Kasha, I know you'll probably text me later and I'll give you some. I think I texted you, or I texted the number that your husband gave me on my link for my website. I do, a lot of you know, I actually do partner with a pet nutrition company. This is not a seminar for me to promote my products. So I'm not doing that. And that's why I don't really want to talk about brands on here too. Like, yes, I'm happy to recommend them. I stand by those products just hands down. I've sold them for many, many years. I stopped for a while and then now I'm doing it again. But there are other products I do not receive commission for that I recommend simply because I stand by those products too. So I like to make money just like everybody else, but I also love to give free stuff to you guys like this workshop. So yeah, the ear infections, the redness on the thigh belly, plus potential discoloration does tell me that it's more yeast. So probiotic and a digestive enzyme can help quite a bit, along with staying away from those ingredients that continue to amp up the inflammation. And we can talk more about that in a personal consult. And then from your female, there are some things that hypoallergenic shampoos have in them that can cause a reaction. So they use hyperallergenic because it's more gentle, but ultimately, if they're all, I mean, your poor female, like it sounds like she's just been through it. So with her, I would recommend doing an oatmeal soak. Literally, get a bag like cheesecloth, put oatmeal in it, put it in a bathtub, and you can also add like apple cider vinegar to the water. So if you put her in a bathtub and you just let her soak, or put her in like a big tub container, something like that, where she's just standing or sitting in it, just let that soak into her skin. It's just like what you do with kids who have the chicken pox. My mom did this when I was a kid, when I had chicken pox, and she just put like a bag of oatmeal, like a cheesecloth full, like a bag full of oatmeal in the water, and let the oatmeal like soak in there until it's nice and cloudy. And then she poured for us, me and my sister, she poured like a half a cup of apple cider vinegar in the water. It does sting a little bit if there's open wounds, but it's not going to be super painful. And it does go away once it's cleaned. And so that's what I would do to handle that. And I would do that twice a week until you start to see the inflammation come down. I would do that instead of using shampoos for now. And then later we can kind of talk about other shampoo products. I even have a grooming, like a groomer that I work with, and then she helps me pick out products that are a good match for dogs that are experiencing these type of things that you're going through. She sees a lot of that. And so I work directly with her. She comes to my house once a week to do nails and stuff like that. She does all my dogs. And then I recommend my clients to her as well, especially for issues like this. So, hope that's helpful. And okay, Lori, you're next. So I have a 2-year-old standard poodle. He doesn't have any issues right now, but I just want to keep him healthy. Awesome. My dogs in the past have had issues and I would love to keep them healthy. I'm often frustrated that vets dismiss the holistic side of care. Oh my gosh, yes. I am with you on this. I get dismissed so much, and I have so much knowledge in this area. And I go in and my dog will have like a bladder infection or something, and they do all the tests and the cultures, and then they put her on an antibiotic, which is great. And then they tell me to put her on their dog food. And I'm like, no, thanks. And they're like, well, you have to keep her on the same food the rest of her life. And I'm like, okay, thank you. And I just kind of just, I'm not rude about it, but oh my gosh, the dismissals, it's insane that veterinarians don't take it seriously. Like it can work both ways. It can go in together. So yeah, if you just want to keep him healthy, the best things that I would recommend are staying away from the ingredients that we talked about, being non-preservative as possible. And if some people have, everybody's in a different financial situation, right? So set a budget, what you're paying now and what you can afford to pay. And that might change. Right now, I'm on a lower budget than I have ever been with my dogs, but they're still getting quality food and they're still getting quality supplements. I just spend more on supplements and less on food. Normally, I like to spend more on food and less on supplements, but it's not always possible depending on our situations. So set a budget for yourself of what you can afford to do. And then again, I'm happy to meet with you and we can set up a plan, like a nutrition plan that you can kind of deviate from when finances change. Like if you have more money, you might want to go full raw, which is going to be the most expensive, especially full commercial raw. If you don't have as much money, but you have a lot of time, you might want to make your own dog food. And I'm happy to come up with the ratios and tell you which ingredients to use. I'm happy to send you some books and some reading on some recipes that you can use with that. And then if you just don't want to mess with that at all, it's too messy, it's gross, you don't want to handle raw meat, that's fine. They make commercial raw as well. And there's freeze dried, there's dehydrated, there's all kinds of options when it comes to that. And always, always, that is going to be better than a kibble format. Because kibble is just never going to be balanced. You're always going to have to add supplements to kind of make up for what it's missing. But that being said, my dogs are on kibble right now because I can't afford raw. And it's just the time that we live in right now. The economy is crazy and things are really expensive. And I have to feed my own family right now versus try and worry about like keeping my dog's nutrition top notch. So we're all kind of going through it, my dog's included. And so we have to make up what they're missing with supplements. So that's what I would recommend is looking into some freeze-dried raw options, dehydrated raw, like actual, like real raw, or commercial raw. Just make sure that when you are doing a commercial raw food, you know if you're doing a supplement to a main meal or you're doing the whole complete meal. Because there are raw foods out there that do toppers or they do supplements where it's only supposed to do 30% of the whole meal. And then you need to add your own meat or you need to add your own organs or whatever. Like it has to have organ meat and muscle meat in it along with bone for it to be considered complete. So just kind of watch out for that in the raw sections. And it, like I said, if you don't want to do raw, I'm happy to give brand recommendations for kibble and then product recommendations for the supplements that I like. But and so, like I said, some of them I get commission for, some of them I don't. I like making money, but this is not why I do this. So, okay, Sarah, 14-year-old Maltese mix, bad breath, bad teeth, although he gets yearly teeth cleaning and has had multiple pulled, lots of tartar buildup, and very bad breath. He's constantly licking his paws. I bet they're brown in between the paw pads as well. Probably has some arthritis, just started some probiotic chews. He gets some kibbles mixed with food I've cooked, usually chicken and veggies, but I also have used white rice before, which now I know to stop. Yeah, the rice, it just adds calories. It just adds a filler, so it keeps him full, but it's not adding anything for him. He'll be fine without it. As far as bad breath and bad teeth, oh my gosh, can I relate? I have a about 9-year-old toy fox terrier. She's lost 7 teeth. Her teeth fall out of her mouth. Like she has such a nasty mouth, and she's had problems since she was a puppy. The dental cleanings help. They help keep it at bay and help keep the gums from getting like really bad gingivitis or periodontal disease. But sometimes you just can't prevent it, especially in these small dogs, because bigger dogs should have more teeth in their mouth. Little dogs should have less teeth in their mouth, but they don't. They have all these teeth. They have the same amount of teeth as a big dog, and they're crammed into this teeny little mouth. So the roots don't develop properly. And then they end up like rotting from the inside of the root. It's just, I struggle with this with my little one as well. Um, I do have, again, some product recommendations that you can do, but something that you can add in right now without even having to go out and spend a bunch of money on more supplements is add in raw marrow bones. You can get these at, like, you can even get these at the grocery store. They're called soup bones, and they're literally just marrow bones. Or you can go to the butcher. I don't know what area you live in, Sarah, but down here in southern Utah, we have a butcher right here in Hurricane that sells marrow bones. We have one in, I believe, Springdale, another one out in Colorado City, and I think there's another one in St. George. And then Bon Appetit in our area, we have one in Santa Clara, we have one in Washington, and we have a brand new store in La Verkin. And all of those stores sell raw marrow bones. They're in the freezer section. And they have their whole treat section when you first walk into the store. Whisker and Bone also sells them too. And that's a wonderful store. I love all of them. I know the owners of both stores, both franchises, and they're just fantastic people. And they also have a huge passion for nutrition as well. So let them know I referred you when you walk in. Let them know I sent you. But yeah, you can get the raw marrow bones back in the freezer section, just a big bag of bones. They're not the cheapest, but they last a long time, especially with small dogs. So just get the small ones. You can just give them to them straight out of the freezer. I don't like giving to them in my house because then it ends up with marrow all over my floor and raw bones. So I give it to them outside or in the crate. And then I let them have it for a couple hours, and then I'll take it away, put it back in the freezer so it kills the bacteria, and then I clean the crate out. And that way it's not a stinky, contaminated mess. So that's something you can do right now. But yeah, again, I'm happy to talk with you about some of these other things. The arthritis, the probiotic chews won't really help with the arthritis, but it can help with the inflammation, which causes pain from arthritis. Arthritis is so tough because the best thing you can do for them when they have arthritis is to keep them moving. I have product recommendations for that too. But the best thing that you can do just holistically with no cost to you is just keep them moving, keep playing with them, keep walking with them, keep them active. Because the moment that you stop doing that and you let them rest because they're hurting, that's the moment it gets worse. I don't know if any of you also struggle with inflammation or arthritis. I do. I'm not that old, and I was in a very serious car accident that resulted in me crushing the right side of my body while I was pregnant with my first son. And I have really bad arthritis in my hand, my elbow, and my shoulder now. And in the wintertime, man, is it hard to work through that pain, but keep doing it. Because if you don't, then you end up getting more and more stiff. You get muscle atrophy, which makes it worse. And then there's more inflammation because you're not working through it. So keep it moving. Keep those, wherever that arthritis is, you can do stretches. And I have a bunch of stretches I could teach you. You can, like, if it's in their back or something that they're like not moving all the time, there's stretches you can do. There's, if it's in their ankles, hocks, or in their knees, anything like that, hips. I just keep them moving, running, playing, walking, stretching, doing anything you can to just keep moving those areas. Okay. Oh, he shakes his head a lot and scratches his ears. The probiotic may help with that. If that continues, let's look at the diet. And again, happy to do that with you. Yeah, we can look into that more. Kasha, yes, she's the best. No on the fur, but yes on the paws. They do always have yeasty paws. Yeah, I think it's a yeast buildup. The probiotic will help. The digestive enzyme will help. And I can absolutely recommend something for that. I'll reach out to you. Thank you so much. Seminar was great. Thank you, Kasha. Thanks for coming. I really appreciate it. It was so nice to meet you. And I look forward to hearing from you. Well, have a great day. Sounds like you might be hopping off. So, okay. Lori, yes, I would love that. Sarah, perfect. I'm in Washington, but he won't chew on hard things. Washington State? Like you're in Washington State or you're in Washington City or County? I live in Washington County and we have a Washington in here. But thank you so much for the seminar and answers to my questions. Washington City, St. George. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I'm in Hurricane, so I'm not far. So we can always even meet up. We can do a quick like 30-minute consult where we come in, you come over to my house and we sit down and we just hash it out and figure out what we need to do. But yeah, we can do a Zoom call too, or just a phone call. I'm pretty flexible. Yeah, he won't chew on hard things. It hurts his teeth too much. Thank you so much for your seminar. There, Sarah, there is a recommendation for a product that is, and again, I don't want to push what I sell or anything, but I'm actually using it with my little dog as well, who really struggles as well with her teeth. And I have noticed a difference in just a week. So it might be something to help out with. Something you can start adding into her food right now is parsley. Parsley will help with bad breath. It won't help with the gingivitis or periodontal disease or plaque or anything like that. But it will help with at least the smell. As far as the marrow bones, a lot of dogs that won't chew on like chews like nylabones or a hard toy, they might chew on the marrow bones because it's meat. So usually there's still some meat on it. And then as the bone starts to defrost, they have to work to get the marrow out of the middle, and it's like freaking candy to them. So that might still be something to try. And it's not too expensive. If you end up buying a bag and then she just won't touch them, she just simply doesn't like them at all. You can always put them up on Marketplace. Even I'll buy them from you. So people will buy them from you. You'll be like, hey, we tried these. My dog didn't like it. I have a whole bag. There's only one missing. This is what I paid. This is what I want for them. People will buy them from you. So I think it's worth a shot. But yeah, well, thank you, everybody. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for coming. We ended just basically right on time. Hey, Debbie. Oh, you got one more question. Yeah, I'll do the last question and then this will be it for today. And then if you guys have any more questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I am happy to set up consults. I can do about 30 minutes for free. And then anything over that, there is a small charge of $50 just for the additional 30 minutes. But I'm happy to give product recommendations, dig a little bit deeper into your dog's issues and anything like that. So Debbie, I'm going to answer your question and then that'll be it for today, but feel free to hop back on, really. Okay. I don't know why my whole screen just changed. It was weird. Anyways, so yeah, thank you everybody. Thank you everybody for coming and supporting me and answering your questions and just being here to do better for your dogs, because this is why I do it. Is I have a passion and I want everybody to have the information that I have. And so I do about one free nutritional workshop a year. I've done it for at least the last 10 years. I've taught some at Sarah Baker's as well up in Springville. I taught some at my old location in Highland, and I've taught some. I've been hosted by rescues and shelters, as well as other nonprofits as well. And so I enjoy doing this. I love teaching people, and I like making money on my commissions when people buy products from me. But like I've done here, I give lots of free recommendations as well. So I don't want it to ever seem like I'm just doing this just to make commissions and sell products. I make most of my money doing training, and the rest of it is just a passion project of mine. So, okay. So I'm going to answer Debbie's question, and then that'll be it for today. And if any of you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. You can either text or email me. You can contact me through my website as well. I'm on Facebook. You feel free to friend me if you want to, or you can follow my business page. I am everywhere. I'm on Instagram as well. So, all right, Debbie. Thanks for this training. I joined for info on keeping my 4-year-old black lab schnoodle healthy. He doesn't seem to have issues with Sarah's help. I'm currently letting the fur on his legs and belly grow. More schnauzer cut. Cute. His fur on his front legs is more brown. I hadn't worried as his siblings have some brown. Should I be concerned as he's an adult? Um, no, not really. Just if the color of his fur is brown. If it seems like it shouldn't be, like if you smell it and it smells like corn chips or something like that, that's typically a yeasty problem. But if the color is just brown, like it could just simply be a genetic thing where his fur is brown in that area. Um, I had a Doberman who was red. He was a male Doberman who had a white paw, or like a white toe, not a white paw, but like one of his toes was white. And everybody's like, oh, that's bad. That's really, like that's bad breeding. Da, 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 da. And I was like, I don't know if it's necessarily bad breeding. I don't know where it came from, but he had one white toe. And unfortunately, it was a fault. I was doing confirmation showing with him, and they always faulted him for this one white toe. And so I actually got like show dye and dyed it when I was showing him so that we would score higher. um anyway, I wouldn't worry so much about it. I would talk about it with Sarah if you're concerned about it being yeast. She knows what to look for as well. She's actually been to several of my nutrition workshops, and we have done collabs together, and I've actually taught at her place up in Springville several times. So we've done some workshops together. So she would know what to look for. If you're concerned, I would bring it up with her, because she can kind of look and see if it's just the fur being brown or if it's a potential of yeast. But typically, the yeast discoloration happens in between the paw pads, around the ears, around the mouth, like the beard might be brown, and then underneath the belly in the sanitary area, so kind of around the butt. And then on the belly, where, like, if you have a boy, obviously it's going to be more on the penis. If you have a female, it'll be around the vagina, and it'll turn brown. And that's typically a sign of over yeast production. So that's usually where it is. If they're licking like right here, and that starts to turn brown, that's typically a yeast buildup as well. So if he's not licking and you're not seeming to have any health issues in that regard, I wouldn't so worry about it. So that would be my advice. It wasn't brown before. Thanks for your suggestions. Okay. Yeah, if it's turning brown and you notice him licking it, he could have yeast, and there could be an overproduction of yeast. Never a bad idea to add a probiotic. It can kind of curb it a little bit. And then look out for those ingredients that we talked about that cause inflammation, which can cause then overproduction of yeast. So it's kind of just like a snowball that just keeps happening. But maybe keep talking to Sarah, and I'm happy to collab with you and her, if you guys need more advice from me. Sarah's pretty good about nutrition, but whenever she kind of runs into an issue she doesn't know the answer to, we work together on it, and I'm happy to do that. So maybe you can also text me a picture, maybe grab my number from the top of the chat, and then maybe just shoot me over a picture of it, and then I can help you that way too. But well, I'm going to call it. So thank you, everybody, for all of your questions, your support by showing up and being here, and just like I said before, just doing better with your dogs. That's all we can do. It's all, they can't tell us what's wrong. They can't tell us how they're feeling, and so we have to go by all of these little detective clues that we find with their health. So I hope this was really helpful. I'm happy to do a deep dive with anybody. And if anybody wants more, you are welcome to text me, email me, call me, whatever you need to do to get a hold of me. Like I said, I'm on social media. And the first 30 minutes for a nutrition consult are free. I make most of my living off of training, boarding and daycare. And so these type of things, I do as much as I can for free. But if it starts coming over 30 minutes, then the next 30 minutes is a $50 fee. But that's even significantly cheaper than what my training rate is. And so even then, I really just want to help people with their dogs and help their dogs feel as good as they can. So anyways, thank you guys so much. I appreciate all of your time. And if you have anything else, feel free to reach out. So thank you, everybody. Bye.